Hello, Dear.
Welcome to Hello, Dear. Thanks for joining us. Today we have a very funny comedian who has a special on YouTube called Brave, fresh from his Rogan appearance, Raanan Hershberg.
Good to be here.
How are you, man?
Good. How low are we? Do we see the legs here, or?
No, you guys are, maybe.
I think your legs might be in the shot, but that's fine.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Do you feel good about your legs?
I do feel good about my legs.
You got pretty good calves.
Yeah, I'm like a mythological creature, like half fat guy, half like the bottom half of an 8-year-old boy or something. I don't know. I have like
Do
skinny
8-year-old
legs.
boys have ripped legs?
Yeah, I don't know why I said 8-year-old boy, but like a thin person. I don't know. Yeah, I have surprisingly. If you on the dating sites when I used to do them, I just put a picture of my legs. That was my version of catfishing.
Did it work?
No, I'm joking.
I don't know, dude. You might have gone nuts on the.
But I feel underdressed.
Yeah, I'm trying something. I think it's funny to dress up for a podcast.
No, I like that, yeah. But I will say if the camera shows my legs, it makes me feel really underdressed. But it also reveals that is not, in fact, a suit.
I know, it's true. Yeah. It's half a suit.
I guess it's evening out, you know what I mean?
I was looking at menswear forums obsessively to be like, what colors go with? People are brutal on those things. So we'll see. We'll see what they think.
How's it going, buddy?
Good, man. Yeah. I'm excited that you went from the most listened podcast on Spotify to the least listened podcast on Spotify.
I try to hit everyone, you know?
You have a lot of versatility.
Yeah, I try to, cover the bases.
Yeah. You know what I thought?
From people listening to people not listening.
Exactly. Yeah, it's good. It's good to, do everything. You know what I thought was actually brave? It was that you said that you didn't believe in conspiracy theories on Rogan.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
the conspiracy podcast.
Yeah, I got a lot of hateful. Did
you really? I was curious.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They separated that part. He posted that out as its own thing, like just me talking about conspiracy theories. It's literally like 1,500 comments, all calling me a moron.
Yeah.
There's not one positive comment.
Yeah, that's brutal.
But it's funny because I wasn't even like rude about it. I was like I was just very like, I'm not really into them. I wasn't like
no, for sure,
smug at all. And people were so upset because it's a religion.
It is. It's true. Like, especially with
I
his fan
offended
base.
Christianity.
Yeah. I know.
I regret. I was so nice about it. I should have just.
You should have gone harder.
I should have just been smug because I was going to get attacked anyway.
You were going to get hate anyway.
I should have just been like what I really think, which is that most people believe them are idiots.
Yeah.
But you don't want to say that on the podcast because he's one of them. You don't want to insult. I try to be nice. He's a nice guy, but like
you have one of the best jokes about it, which is that when you try to argue with a person who believes in conspiracy theories, they've always researched it more than you have.
Right, raw information beats zero information.
Yes,
that's where I felt a little on the podcast.
It's
too.
the best. No, I know that podcast specifically. I always feel that way listening to it.
You can't like prepare yourself for it because it's hard to read all the false information. It's hard to be so knowledgeable in all of it. So
when he was like, and I don't even know if this specific example is the best, but he was like, well, the ligature marks on Epstein's neck. It's like, dude,
and by the way,
I'm not reading coroner's reports.
Like, and by the way, I wasn't even saying that anything's possible.
No, I know.
I just think like they betray themselves a little in the fact that they're so certain about something.
Right.
They're like, I'm just questioning things, but this also is definitely how it happened.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, I don't know. It's like, I just think like you can. I mean, there are conspiracies that are real, obviously, but I also think like, like what I said on there, like Epstein had a good reason to kill himself at that point. He wasn't flying high. You know what I mean?
That's true.
But I mean, look, I don't know.
What conspiracy theories do you feel like? What's the most plausible one to you?
That's a good question. Anything the Republicans do. No, it is funny what it's like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really am like so against it, which I realize now is my own bias.
Okay,
I try to.
Let me spin the phrase. Let me spin the question a little bit. What examples of corruption are you certain have happened, or that you?
I'll tell you a conspiracy.
Yeah.
I think there's pretty good evidence that. This goes back to the Republican thing, but I think there's fairly good evidence that Reagan made a deal with Iran to release the hostages after he was,
That's
president.
the Iran-Contra.
Yeah. I think there's fairly good evidence for that.
Right.
And my buddy did a Netflix show. I should have brought that on the podcast. brought it up, how I do believe in this conspiracy.
Yeah.
I'm really wasting it bringing it up on the... No, I'm joking.
You're just flinging this into the void.
My friends Christian Hansen and Zach Treitz made a Netflix documentary called The Octopus Murders, which is an interesting kind of conspiracy about like a guy who was kind of investigating some federal corruption, and he wound up like committing suicide, but a lot of evidence that it was murder. And that is also the kind of thing where like this guy was not in a depressed place. This guy was like really going somewhere to, and I'm like, I watch that, I'm like, there are clearly like government corruption, fishy things. Sure. I think it's kind of like, how you wonder who hates you in your life, like and it's never the people you think. Yeah. It's never the people you think hate you aren't thinking about you at all. And the people who do hate you are the ones you're not thinking about. Yeah. So I just feel like there are corruption and conspiracies, but I feel like the idiots who listen to, Joe Rogan aren't getting the ones correct. You know what I mean? And I think some of them are just like insane, like the Trump shooter thing, which both sides fell privy to. Like, I really think
because the left-wing conspiracy about it was like Trump staged his own assassination.
Yes, Trump, who was just winning in the election, decides to throw a Hail Mary even though he's in the lead. And it was a nice reminder that everyone's a fucking idiot because like so many people on the left thought that was a conspiracy. And it's like, at least let's just stop and be like, it is possible that someone might want to just shoot Trump.
Yeah, and it is possible that like a mentally ill young man gets access to a gun and does something drastic and horrible, which happens like every other week in America. And the
Secret Service fuck up because they haven't had an assassination attempt in a long time, so they're a little, that's the incompetence factor. Sure. Yeah. To believe in conspiracy theories, you kind of have to ignore the incompetent factor. Yeah. And I think that's just bullshit. I think most people are just trying to do their job and trying not to get fired and fucking up a lot. You know what I mean? I think a lot of remember that Making a Murderer show? Yeah. I think that...
I never watched it, but I remember when
that kind of got into this, I think perpetuated a lot of wrong thinking on people's part. Yeah. Which is that this guy, there was possible evidence that the cops framed him, right? Yes. But he also definitely committed, not definitely, but he...
It's highly likely.
He killed this woman and tortured her. And there's just a cap on people's cognitive thinking where they're like, well, if he was framed, he must be innocent. Not, he was framed and he could also be guilty. Yeah. People have trouble juggling two different things. Sure. And so many people, the documentary let so many people believe that the cops actually killed this woman. Right. And framed him because he was suing the police department. As if police officers are going to murder just because their job is getting sued. That's not even them. Yeah, right? I don't want this company to lose money. I'm going to go murder. It's just like, it's fantastical thinking. And it's like people think Shawshank. They're like, if someone's framed, they must be innocent. Right. And there's such a cap.
They could have done something bad and then also be framed.
It's such a cap on people's thinking that once they get one inconsistency, they have to choose. Yeah. As opposed, it's the same thing with, not to get, but the rape on October 7th. Yeah. The UN has a report that it's very, very likely that happened. Yeah, there was a couple faulty witnesses in the original report, and a lot of people just go, well, there's a couple faulty witnesses, so there was no rape. Forget that the UN did a report saying that there's believable grounds for rape. There's also been sexual violence on both sids. Yeah, trying to show both sides. But
I'm really happy. What are we like? 4 minutes into the podcast, we've gotten to the October 7th rapes.
Well, I'm just saying.
No, I love it. Yeah,
people just are like, and I'm not like.
You have a fast accelerator.
Yeah, I just think people like they can't juggle two things, and it really is like.
Do you succumb to any irrational thinking yourself?
Of course, everyone does.
What's a specific example of you doing that?
In my life, I'm constantly having personal cognitive distortions where I think people hate me or people are mad at me. Or shit was my girlfriend, or I'm constantly projecting. Yeah. I try to follow a rule. I fail at this, but in social life, I think an important rule is to only assume people are mad at you if they bring it up.
Yeah.
And that way you don't have to ever have conjecture or projection. Just be like, look, if someone has an issue, they'll bring it up to me, you know?
Yeah, and if they do have an issue but don't bring it up to you, then it's not worth you trying to
It's not really an issue.
It's
It's like almost a social contract. It's their job to bring it up.
Yeah.
And if they don't bring it up...
That's their fault in a way. It's like...
Yeah, or they'll let it slide and forget about it. You know what I mean? I mean, people are so worried about people being pissed off at them, and then they find out, like... Well, someone could be pissed off at you and then also just change their tune about that.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, if they remain pissed off at you... and they didn't bring it up to you, at that point, that becomes that's something they did wrong. It's like they didn't take
or not wrong, but something they
need to deal with. Like, you need to deal with your resentment. You can't just go around resenting people.
Or they chose it wasn't worth bringing up. But either way, to me, I fail at this all the time, but like, I do think that's a really good way to live, to just be like, well, people should express their needs.
Yeah.
And if they don't, I'm not going to just go on a wild goose chase to project, you know, how people think about me. Because you have no control over that, you know?
Are you pretty good at instigating conflict? Like, when you have a problem with somebody, you go to them and you say, hey, I have a problem with this thing you did?
I've gotten better.
Yeah.
It's harder with my girlfriend. That's the hardest one.
Yeah.
Because there's more, like, you know, she's there. So, like,
Wait,
once you bring it up, you then have to...
Sure.
Yeah,
You can't just bring it up and
be like,
leave.
fuck you on the phone and then, like, get off the phone. But, yeah.
You can't just leave a YouTube comment on your girlfriend.
I try... Yeah, exactly. I try to bring stuff up. I mean, like, if I really care. I mean, you know, sometimes you also have to let things slide sometimes.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, everyone has, like, this whole world is just giant biases left and right.
Yeah.
Judges sentencing people because they didn't have lunch at the right time, and just, you know, they say that neuroscientists have done tests that say if people are smelling something bad, they're more likely on a test to, like, kind of tally up things to show more of a Republican conservative viewpoint, which makes sense. Because every time you see a homeless person, your heart is liberal, but your nose is Republican.
Right. Yeah.
Your heart's like, oh, I want to help them out. Then you smell them, and you're like, King Joffrey. You're like,
there's
get away.
There's an instinctive repulsion.
So, like,
that cuts through your, like, well, your empathy, I guess.
Right.
It cuts through your empathy.
So, I mean, I just think, like, and I don't know, like, much. Like, I've read some, you know, neuroscience and some.
Books.
I
mean, there's a ton of stuff about, like, cognitive biases and like behavioral psychology. That is, like, kind of, I think, the most prominent understanding of the human mind right now.
Yeah, and it's mostly about how people are delusional.
People are wrong. Yeah. People don't understand statistics. People don't understand risk.
Understand statistics at all.
Yeah.
People have their brains have been evolved for hunter-gatherer times, and they don't know how to incorporate this huge amount of people on the planet with everything. Anything, like, I mean, like, you know, the COVID thing was a big thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, even someone I knew was like, well, I know this person who got the vaccine and then they died like a week later, you know? And they were like, well, they were drinking a lot. But I'm like, look, anything, I mean, obviously the vaccine can have an adverse effect. The point is that it saves way more people.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's like, millions of people got the vaccine.
Yeah.
The chance of someone dying
is high.
A week after getting it, people don't know the difference between just two things that are, you know, just because two things happen doesn't mean they're connected. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do, and I think you're right. That type of that understanding of the mind has become so popular, especially among, like, economists and, like, business people. I instinctively want to push back against it now, because it's a sort of cold actuarial way of looking at life, where it's like, well, we're just kind of all data points, like, wandering around a graph, and
you can take it too far where we're just like robots.
Yeah, exactly. I think I don't know. I want life to have more meaning than that, and it might not.
Oh, 100%.
But I think
Well, who is the neuroscientist who's so God, what's his name? Robert Sapolsky, the guy who's
Sapolsky, yeah, for sure.
Like, I mean, he's smart, but he's so adamant against free will to the point where you're like, look, you're taking this as far as it can go.
Yeah.
But you're so focused on that, and I do think it is important to, like, I do think it's good to take a step back and be like, all right, this is all chemical reactions, and punishments for people should be deterrent, not not punitive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, what's the difference at the end of the day?
Right.
Free will, you have no choice to believe in free will. So maybe it's important to like take a step back sometimes, but like you're going to live with that.
Sure.
And thinking that
there's a moral and ethical dimension that matters, and also I don't know, just
and
like
it destroys all art. It destroys all like everything.
Exactly. Yes, it does.
So I do think you can lead that to a place where it's just like, you know, but like that's the social contract. Maybe everything's meaningless in the big picture, but you have to believe in illusions to have a society. You know,
the two guys that came up with like.
Look it up. We always got to look up shit.
The two guys that came up with like behavioral psychology are both Israeli. I find that interesting.
Oh, what's his name?
Kahneman and Amos Tversky.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I mean, they might just.
What's that book they wrote? Well,
Kahneman wrote Thinking Fast and Slow. Yeah, but then they both had a series of like articles, and Michael Lewis wrote a great book about them working together. Called,
well, that's fun that these Israelis are the ones researching biases.
Well, I think that's interesting. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of wondering like. I think Michael Lewis's book goes into. It doesn't explicitly draw that connection, and it doesn't really say like, well, they were interested in this type of subject because of the society they were in. But I don't know, it's just interesting that like this kind of stuff came up in the context of I think the 6 Days War, and you know like they're just like this incredibly turbulent, fragile beginning of a new society that is like rife with moral complexity.
Right.
I don't know. I find that cool.
That is interesting. Yeah.
I don't know what point to make about it. I don't know enough about Israel to make a point about it. But
You're saying that Israelis are correct. I hear it loud and clear. That is interesting. And this all gets into that interesting point, which is like if you believe that the brain is inherently evolved to be somewhat delusional and look for patterns that aren't there,
right?
Patterns that helped back in hunter-gatherer times, but now you're just looking for things that don't connect. How can one authoritatively even say that? How can you say how can you transcend that? You know, and you can't. I mean, you can try. You can try to just be a little more aware of it and try to be skeptical of your own brain and try to question your own beliefs. But like,
and I guess
you're trapped a little in that. You know.
You know what it is too is that so many businesses just use that data to trick people into doing stuff to make money off of them.
Sure,
so I think that's why too. It's like
I
mean, social media companies use it, and
and
it's like the huge thing, advertising.
No, it's like.
So I think it depresses me to go too deep into this stuff because I don't know. I just think I want.
I was talking to someone who worked for Facebook, and they were like. Yeah, they know Facebook knows how to market to you, and people think it's because Facebook's like listening to you. It's like they don't have to listen to you.
Yeah, people
are so cliched. You can find out people are so predictable that you can find out their buying habits. You can use all that to like figure out what they want.
It seems like mind reading or like surveillance. Mind reading.
It's just that we're predictable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like, but so I mean, and obviously like science is not great on individuality and kind of like takes away the soul of everything. Sure. But everything's a balance. You have to be aware of our predictability, but also be aware of, what makes people unique.
Who's your favorite science writer?
I really like what's his name? Robert Wright.
Robert Wright.
I mean, he's more of a historian. So he wrote the
I don't know.
He wrote The Moral Animal, which was like a really good primer on evolutionary psychology.
Cool.
He wrote a great book on the. He's a science and historian writer.
Yeah, okay.
He wrote a great book on the.
He's like a historian of ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Evolution of God, which was like incredible.
Nice.
I love him. Yeah. I mean, he's a little wonky in some of his. He has a podcast where he kind of says some. I don't agree with it, but yeah.
What are his controversial opinions?
He's just like a little too lefty for me sometimes politically.
Oh, okay. I would have guessed somewhat right just because I think evolutionary psychologists tend to be like...
I know. Yeah, right. But no, he can be a little... I don't know. It's just his views on Israel are sometimes simplistic.
Oh, okay.
On his podcast, I think. But The Moral Animal is fantastic. I mean, if you've never read about evolutionary psychology, he's just really fun and like witty and
That's cool.
Exciting. Evolution of God... it was really incredible. Just talks about the way historical trauma led to kind of the creation of God from its evolution into a monotheism, and like and just like
so trauma led to monotheism specifically.
Yeah, like the idea that like it's hard to articulate all the stuff he says, but like like Jesus is clearly the plan wasn't for him to die. That was actually like kind of a curveball. So much of the religion.
That's a funny way to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, he was like, I'm the Messiah.
Yeah.
And then they murdered him.
Yeah.
So that's trauma. That's like, oh shit, this. But then you create this whole narrative.
Sure, yeah.
Oh no, that was the plan.
Right.
So there's real historical trauma, and the way reality kind of.
Damn, this has me rethinking the Christ mythology. It makes me like it more in a way because it's like.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, that was the plan.
Every time I fuck up, I can just turn it into like a magical, ordained thing.
Because think about it, he's literally like, I am God.
Yeah, right.
And they very easily kill him. So that's like, this was not, so like, but then the narrative gets so much more complicated to like try to explain these these curveballs from reality.
Sure.
And just stuff with when the Jews got kicked out of Israel. Not to be controversial. When the Jews got kicked out of Israel by the I forget if it was the Romans or which ones, but like they kind of started seeing God as someone who like actually punished them for being sinful, and that's why they got kicked out. So it allowed God to actually extend his power as opposed to not just being their God.
Yeah.
But the God of everyone, that the God got I can't remember if it was the Romans or the Babylonians, I think the Babylonians got them to destroy Israel, to punish them. So God, to explain all these horrible traumas, becomes all more powerful until he becomes abstract, which he wasn't abstract in the beginning. And in fact, you can see evidence in the Bible of this kind of anthropomorphic God, which in the Garden of Eden, you see him walking. There's a line about him walking in the garden. And after that, it's all fairly abstract. He's just this idea, this concept. But you saw this early evidence of some real anthropomorphism. Yeah.
Have you heard that possibly apocryphal story of concentration camp prisoners putting God on trial and him losing?
Wait, it's possibly apocryphal.
Well, I just mean it's like who knows how I don't know where it came from or But the idea that there was like a group of prisoners in a concentration camp and they like put him
God
on trial. Yeah.
But what do you mean?
For allowing the Holocaust to happen.
You mean they actually had a trial
or something like that?
Okay, yeah.
Like these rabbis
put God on trial.
Yeah. I always find that to be an interesting. There it is. So Elie Wiesel. Okay, yeah. 3 Jewish scholars put God on trial for indifference to the suffering of his people and found him guilty. Yeah, it's from What's your favorite book about the Holocaust?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah. Or favorite might be a weird way to ask.
No. I have a whole shelf of fucking Holocaust books.
Yeah.
My favorite book on the Holocaust. I mean, there's a biography of Hitler. Yeah. Does that count?
Yeah, I think so.
There's a biography of Hitler by God, I can't remember. My memory's so bad. Joachim, German guy, that is so well written and so Shakespearean. And
is there anything to learn from his personal life that's useful?
Yeah, I mean,
understand. I mean, in a way, it's like yes, because it's I don't know. It obviously gives context to everything, but.
Yeah, I mean, he created so many lies and mythology, and then his real life is so up for interpretation about what happened. So it's tough. It's it's hard to separate the fact from fiction. I mean, his anti-Semitism was something that was a gradual evolution, but according to Mein Kampf, it was this big moment where we just saw a Hasidic Jew walk by, and he was like, there's something about that, like a revelation, which isn't true. I mean, there's stuff to learn about him. I mean, the book does people, I mean, the book opens up with the question, is he great? And they don't mean great like...
No, I understand, yeah.
But is he great? Is there something... is there something extraordinary about him?
It's funny to interpret.
Yeah, I know.
Like, is he awesome?
Yeah. But is there something extraordinary about him?
Right. Or is he just some weird loser who got, whatever, caught up in historical circumstances?
And I don't know, like...
Yeah, that's a whole
something
theory.
You'll never get the answer to, but like... I definitely think a biography that thinks he's extraordinary is quite more entertaining.
Yeah. It's like if a time traveler did kill Hitler as a child, as a baby, would the Holocaust still happen with someone else?
And I think with
like Goebbels or
Hitler
whoever.
did have, not to sound like Taken, he did have a set of skills that were rare. I mean, the same way that that Trump is both, like, people act like he's not. A lot of people dismiss him, but it is rare to be both that awful and that funny.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do think
that's your joke.
Yeah.
You have a joke.
And I do think that does often confuse people because you're like, well, if he's funny, he must be pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think people think that's why people chum it up with Alex Jones. They're like, well, he's funny, he's a fun hang, but he's also evil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, I think Hitler's ability to have this crazy agenda, but also know how to manipulate people in a real politic way.
Yeah.
Most people with such a crazy agenda and such crazy beliefs aren't that good at being Machiavellian.
Sure.
So you did have a rare combination of someone who was truly like just believed in insane, this almost cosmic fairy tale of what life should be like. And he was thinking about the whole universe. I mean, he was thinking about his plans for the whole world.
Sure.
Of like, and for him, it is creating people. It's hard for people to understand, but for him, it is creating utopia.
Right. Yeah.
Utopia for him is no jizz, and but the ability to like play people off each other and know how to like hide how he believes, and know how to become looking somewhat modern in the beginning.
Well, and then also
and manipulate people is pretty extraordinary.
There was a really good New Yorker article. I think Adam Gopnik wrote it, but it was about how a bunch of
from Tar.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, from Tar. Yeah, that was so funny. By the way, in Tar, just
that scene. Yeah,
just him like reading her accomplishments.
I really wanted to like that movie.
You didn't like it?
Every scene was just like 45 minutes long. I just felt like it was self-indulgent.
Oh, I really liked it. Yeah, I thought it was good.
I mean, I really wanted to like it. I watched it twice. I love his debut movie, In the Bedroom, so much. But like, I don't know. I just thought it loved itself too much.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't disagree with that. That feels like a hard thing to agree or disagree with, that a movie loves itself too much.
Neil Brennan had a really funny line he said about that. He was like, she's also not, like, she kind of does a voice right away. Like, she kind of does this kind of...
Oh, yes,
and it felt like the director was afraid to be like, what else you got?
I don't know. I really liked her. I love when she terrifies the little child on the.
Yeah, no, there's really good stuff in it. Yeah. There's certain movies that like I want to like so bad that I will watch them again, even though like I did that with Killer of the Flower Moon. I wanted to like it so bad, and it didn't connect to me at all. And then I watched it, but the problem is when I watch it again, I feel the exact same way.
Sure.
You know.
Let me quickly say this thing about the article, which was that a bunch of like less right-wing politicians around the time were like, "Oh, this guy's kind of crazy, but I think we can control him."
Yeah.
So let's. So it's like other people were trying to be Machiavellian, with him,
but underestimating him,
and failed.
Yeah, for sure. And
which, in a way, that goes to your incompetence theory. History.
Yeah, big. And the Nazis also were so incompetent. People act like they were so organized, but there was much incompetence.
Yeah.
There's he wrote like a will and testimony. I thought this was so interesting. He wrote a will and testimony in the bunker. I think he wrote it out. And at one point he says, Hitler, my one regret is that I was way too kind.
That's funny. What was your favorite? Oh, what's your favorite book about Israel?
Oh yeah,
because you have a great joke about that too. Of like,
the objective thing, or
that I think so. Yes, it's like that books about Israel written by Jews, and written by Arabs, and
My favorite book about Israel.
Mine's Operation Shylock by Philip Roth.
Yeah, I've never read that one.
Dude, it's so good.
Is it good? It's fiction, right?
Yeah, it's fiction, but it's like I
gotta read it.
When I was like preparing for this, I like literally put these 2 long ass quotes from the book in, and I was like, I just want Raanan to read these and talk. But then I was like, we'd be here for like 3 hours.
No, I got.
But they're incredible.
Yeah.
They have some of the it's set in like the early '90s, so it's even before like the Second Intifada and some of the more. But it's so I don't know. It seems to capture the kind of moral morass of of the society, I guess. And
no, he's really interesting, Philip Roth. I want to read that. Yeah, I really like Philip Roth. I have an issue with him that I have with a lot of novelists. Not all, like the ones who are the best. When it comes to dialogue, he's one of those guys who the dialogue sounds just like the prose.
Oh, but I don't mind that.
You don't mind that?
I don't mind that at all.
That's how you sound. You're like, it's so natural. Yeah. That's how it is in Infinite Jest too. Like there's a mentally handicapped guy,
right?
And he talks just as intellectual as anyone else.
I think I like that stylization. I'm like,
really? Yeah.
I don't know. I want to just be in this person's mind, and so if everybody in the book talks like them, that it's like it's a certain slant of reality.
Yeah.
I remember one time you posted on Facebook what's like the funniest book, and I commented Porno's Complaint, and you were like, you pretentious fuck.
Did I really?
You like made fun of me after.
Why? That is a really funny book. I don't know. So mean.
It is, yeah. I mean, no, you weren't mean about it. You were funny, but you were like ribbing me about it.
But the answer is Confederacy of Dunces.
That is great. Confederacy, it's great. No, I 100% agree. But different kind of comedy for sure.
No, Porter's Complaint is great.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's like it is pretentious, but also he fucks he fucks a piece of liver.
I don't think that book's pretentious.
It's like American Pie.
I don't know why I said that was pretentious. I don't know. Like
you were just ribbing me. I don't think it was a real.
Yeah.
I think you were just. It was a light roasting.
But I don't know, the Israel book. I don't know. There's this book called My Promised Land. I remember really liking. I think the guy got Me Too'd, but like all great artists. Yeah. And Ari Shafir or something. I remember liking that book a lot. Ari Shafir. Yeah. I remember liking that book a lot. I mean, from what's that Thomas Freeman book? That was a pretty awesome.
The World is Flat?
No, from Beirut to Lebanon, from Beirut to Jerusalem or whatever.
People talk shit about Thomas Freeman a lot, and I don't really have like a good take on him. I've heard him on interviews, and I like him.
Yeah, some of his essays are a little too like
I feel like the ding against him is that like it always starts with like I was talking to a taxi driver in Cairo and he gave me his theory of the Middle East, whatever. Yeah.
No, I mean I love that book. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't read like a huge amount of Israel books.
Yes, I mean it's a really it kind of feels like you have to read first like the entire Bible.
Yeah.
And then you have to read like 15 books about each war that occurred, over the course of like its founding to have any sense of like.
No, it's too much. It's too much for anyone.
Yeah.
But it's wild. I was thinking the other day, I was telling my friend, I'm like, I've been called like a, fucking Zionist,
right.
like evil, whatever. I'm like, I'm against the war. I hate Netanyahu.
Yeah.
I don't like, it's hilarious that I'm like, well, I mean, I think a Zionist, from what I meant, is just someone who believes Israel has a right to exist.
No, I know. It's kind of even that word is like, what does it even mean anymore? I mean, I think it's meant different things throughout history too.
Right. So, but I was thinking the other day, I was telling my friend about it. I'm like, it's not the side between like Palestinians versus Israelis.
Yeah.
There's really two sides. And the sides are nuance versus not nuance.
Right.
And those are the camps. And they say it. The people who go, it's not complicated, those are the non-nuanced camps. And everyone, and that, because I think about that, I'm like, the people have been like, the people who other people would consider pro-Israeli are people I know who like, are deeply ashamed by the Israeli government.
Yeah.
And a lot of them very much against the war. And like, so it's like, we're not even pro-Israel. We're just nuance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's fascinating to me. But
I think this is one of my, I think, possibly irrational tendencies, which is I think I tend to hide behind nuance sometimes, and I stop myself from having an opinion about anything.
No, yeah, it can paralyze you.
Oh, it's too complicated.
It can paralyze you. Yeah. And that's tough. And then you're also like, is this nuance a delusion itself?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I think that a lot with Israel because because you get a little gaslit because you're like, I mean, I know what's happening. It's awful.
Yeah.
And I hate the Israeli government. And then I'm like, am I just in denial about it? No, not all Israelis are fucking evil.
No.
That is bullshit. And that is like anti-Semitic. I mean, I tried to say it on Rogan.
Isn't it true that the support for the war currently is somewhat high among?
Yeah, because that's what the thing is when there's like a horrible atrocity.
Yeah.
People go into survival mode.
It's true. I mean, it's an obvious comparison, but it's like it's support for going into Afghanistan after.
But it's beyond that because it's like they saw this thing happen.
No, I know it was, and
they just now want that thing to be
right.
Hamas to be gone.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I think the war is a bad idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to say this on Rogan. It's how I feel. It's like, I think the war is a bad idea, and I don't think, just because Hamas uses a human shield doesn't mean you should be able to, like, ignore that fact and kill so many people and so many kids.
When I've talked to or seen, unrepentantly pro-Israeli people talk about this, the human shield thing becomes like it's weird. There's a sort of childish quality to the argument.
You got to go further. You can't just be like, well, they use human shields. You have to be like, well, they use human shields, but that doesn't mean if someone has a bunch of hostages, you don't just kill all the hostages.
Yeah. Well, it's, I mean, from their perspective, it's almost as if it's like, I'm not touching you, or like stop. It's almost like a stop hitting yourself kind of thing.
Right. Exactly. It's like, so, well, they use kids as shields. Yeah. Well, so you shouldn't kill them.
Yeah. Right.
But I also think I think when there's an atrocity happening, like I think people downplayed October 7th, but I think it obviously they did. I think it puts that, and it was specifically designed to trigger the Holocaust. I think it puts a country in a survival mode where like when you get into survival mode, morality is not really like, you're just like, I need to survive. You know?
I know. Yeah. You don't really.
I think it's okay to like, I'm against the war, but I also think it's insane to think like Israelis are evil for wanting Hamas to be gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Hamas sowed the seeds of hate into Israelis for a long time. And there's a lot of hate to begin with. But like, but yeah, I mean, like, I also think like, I just think the idea that all Israelis are like extremists now is is an anti-Zionist propaganda that the government, Netanyahu made a coalition with some of the worst these fucking thugs, Ben Gvir and Smotrich. But
the shit some of those people say on
it's awful.
Twitter is like it's
and awful, and they're very guilty in terms of like I forget which Gvir is the head of the police, and and they have encouraged so much violence in the West Bank. They're awful people. But I also think anti-Zionist propaganda is designed to make everyone think that all of Israel is like that. I
agree, yeah.
And we don't do that to other countries. When Russia invaded Ukraine, no one was like, all Russians are pieces of shit. And why is it different here? Yeah. It's because there's anti-Semitism clouding how people see it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I always think about that with like, Rikers Island. It's like fucking 2 miles away from here or whatever. Right. That's like an atrocity happening.
Of course.
And we're,
it's a horrible thing that we just let happen. I mean, and it's like, I don't know. I just think like, you can criticize Israel. You can be against the war, but once you start denying rapes, when there's like plenty of evidence to say it, once you start saying all Israelis are pieces of shit, or like just making up stuff, it's like you have plenty of real things to criticize. Yeah. But the hyperbole is like, I don't know. It's like just like hate fever that like builds to a place. I don't know. But anyway, I didn't mean to talk about this.
Who's your favorite problematic artist?
Maybe Dickens.
Why is Dickens problematic?
He wanted to leave his wife for a younger woman, so he claimed that she was insane, so she would get put into a mental institution. And quite,
I didn't know that at all. That's hilarious.
And quite anti-Semitic. In Oliver Twist, everyone has a name of like, and Oliver said, and this one, but when it's
the Jew or whatever,
it's like, and then the Jew said,
wow, When but you like Dickens, nonetheless.
Love Dickens.
So when you because I actually haven't really read him. I read Bleak House in college, and I found it like so boring. I can really.
You should read it again. Okay, it's the funniest book.
Really,
it's incredible. Yeah, you're probably not old enough. Like, it's the kind of thing where like.
I think that just the endless like trial. I just but
it's
wore
really
on me.
It's really good
Okay.
now. It's impossible to understand in college.
Yeah.
It's just like, I really think so. It's not the but it's one of the funniest books, and it's him at his best. It's him like being like, I'm going to show you 3,000 of the best characters ever.
Okay,
but
nice.
even that book, there's these. He's one of the great writers. Actually, can write really good people who are interesting.
Yeah.
Two of the characters in the book are just saints, Esther and John Jarndyce, and Jarndyce, and at one point they're just like the nicest people ever. And at one point they're like, "You're so rich, you might become a Jew one day." Like even the saints are anti-Semitic.
When you see an anti-Semitic character in a book that you like, I guess how do you just like respond to it? Or are you just like
an anti-Semitic character or an anti-Semitic novelist? Oh,
I guess both. Yeah. I
don't care about a character.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not an answer to the question, but I will say this.
Yeah.
I think as so many people now have had the question of, can you separate the art from the artist?
Yeah.
And as a Jew, I felt like we always had to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't read literature without separating. So
true.
it's like everyone's like, I don't know if I can like him. He said some hateful things about black. It's like that's everyone was anti-Semitic until like 1980. So it's like you can't like every great artist was anti-Semitic.
It's like I don't think you separate the art. You just consider them together, but you don't necessarily let the artist's personal conduct ruin the art. Like the thing I always think about is I watched Rosemary's Baby somewhat recently.
Masterpiece.
It's amazing, and the
true masterpiece.
And like Roman Polanski's whole fucking deal, and Mia Farrow being the star of it, all of that made me like the movie more.
Yeah.
Because it's like the
most compassionate view of gaslighting and sexual violence by Roman Polanski.
I guess so. That's true. Yeah. and did he make that movie before Sharon Tate was murdered, or after?
Yeah, before. Yeah.
Okay, so that
Chinatown was after.
Okay, got it. But it's somewhat. It's just like crazy. But it's pretty close to when she got murdered, though. It's like
it was it was a couple years later. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just it just is so strange to have this like. It's like this guy makes this satanic movie. His wife gets murdered 2 years later. He rapes somebody like however many years later. Also, Mia Farrow,
a 13-year-old,
right? A 13-year-old.
People forget a 13-year-old,
right? Yeah. And then Mia Farrow's whole thing is like
Woody Allen. Yeah,
Woody Allen.
Well,
also Frank Sinatra.
She had Sinatra, and then Polanski as the director, and then Woody Allen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just this like confluence of like
I know
bizarre misogyny and sexual demonism, and it all feels like it's in the movie.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I love the movie. I think it's so upsetting.
Yeah.
And I think you never feel more alone for someone than you do for Mia Farrow in that movie.
Yeah.
And I also think when you rewatch it, it has quite the rewards because they reveal the plot to you without you even noticing.
Yeah.
Like there's part where she's having a dream and you can hear the neighbors planning it and it's seeping into her dream.
Oh, that's cool.
So you have the nun talking, but it's actually the woman being like, "I told you not to." Try to tell her the plan about it. You just see you just see the plan laid out in front of you, and I just think it's also brilliant that they picked this couple that seems so harmless and annoying.
Yeah.
So it makes you feel like it makes you almost not believe her. So she feels so alone that even you are like, is she just going crazy?
Sure.
You know? It's just such a powerful.
And John Cassavetes as her husband is really good.
Oh, he's incredible, and it's just such a. The ending is both funny and silly and really, but also like beautiful. I mean, it's just like it's the template for so many horror movies. This plot that just works perfectly. That you can't get out of.
Yeah. And like the horror of childbirth.
The horror of childbirth, the horror of not having agency, the horror of like she's just being gaslit by everyone. And it's such an absurd view of the world. It's a view of the world where like you really have no control. But yeah, I mean the idea like it's not like there's nothing to me there's nothing about art where it's like it has to be done by someone who has like great morals. That doesn't like even when you're like, well, he has such sympathy to the characters he created. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's him. So I don't think like I also think people compartmentalize and not every and are good in some things and horrible in other things, you know. But like I don't know why like art, why we need the artist itself to be moral. I mean, I guess it'd be nice.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Who's your favorite?
But Polanski's probably that. He is probably the best answer.
The problematic, yeah.
I'll take Dickens. That was a pretentious answer.
No, that's a good answer though. But, and I didn't know about his putting his wife in a mental institution. That's crazy.
But
it almost feels like for it's like, oh, he married like a much younger woman, and it's like, all right, before like 1950, it's like everyone did a version of that, so it almost feels like it doesn't even.
But he was hated by his family.
Oh, really? Okay,
oh yeah, his children. I mean, maybe not all his children, but some of his children really. And he's a guy who like was very moral in his work, you know. But like, no, he was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
At least his wife, you know.
Oh. But Polanski, you think is like...
It's also funny because he started like going on tour, reading out it was basically doing like stand-up.
I know, yeah, for
and then
sure.
he died like immediately. He's just like, his life expectancy shot down so much.
Because he started doing stand-up.
Yeah.
How long did Mark Twain survive after he essentially was doing stand-up? Like,
well, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, he lived a while, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't he born and died on a comet? Like
I don't know.
Like a Halley's Comet type thing?
Oh, that's cool.
I think he was born and died on a...
Yeah. Scott, can we look that up real quick?
Yeah.
Do you have any phobias? Okay, yeah.
Oh, after the comet. Once it reaches perihelion.
One day after the comet. Yeah, so,
Well...
Close enough. That's
close enough, I guess, yeah.
Do you have any phobias?
Yeah. Wait. Phobias are an interesting question because it's almost like I have so many fears.
You have so many fears, but they're not necessarily irrational.
You know, I'm not really a phobia guy. My fears are all rational.
Okay. Yeah.
End of the world, death, you know.
Yeah.
Joe List is a phobia guy. He's like afraid of the dentist. I'm like, I don't give a shit about that. I don't.
Do you actually? But you said the end of the world. Like, do you think about that in a real way? You're like, oh,
sometimes
like
I
nuclear.
worry. Yeah, of course. Who doesn't? Like
escalation.
I guess people don't. But like,
yeah, I mean, I think about it in the sense that I think it's possible, but I don't.
I mean,
and I mean, it must have been like this in the 80s. People talk about this all the time in the 80s. Oh, you like genuinely lay in bed at night being like, oh, like nuclear Armageddon might happen.
And the 50s and like, I mean,
but yeah, that doesn't, or like rogue.
It's not like I think about all the time.
Rogue AI, I don't like.
You don't think? I mean, I think about. I mean, it depends. I mean, you know, most of the time I'm living all life, but I definitely have moments of being.
I guess climate crisis stuff. I'm like, like there will be massive.
I used to be like
destabilization of society because of it, and that will make life worse.
But that was another thing that was just so the way it's presented was so hyperbolic. That it like put everyone off of making real changes.
Yeah, I know, because it's you think I'm helpless.
The world's
I can't do
not
anything.
ending tomorrow from fucking climate change. You know?
Oh, you have to leave in pretty soon.
Yeah,
so,
let's talk about the poem.
Yeah. Let's do here quick. Can we pull up the painting real quick? I want to show you this painting. It'd
be so funny when you edit out all the Israel stuff.
Yeah, this podcast is like 12 minutes long. This is The Connoisseur by Norman Rockwell. What do you think of this? First, can you describe it to our listeners?
Looking at Pollock?
It's dude. So Norman Rockwell drew a Pollock so that he could then draw a guy looking at it.
Is it him looking?
I maybe, or it's just like an old guy. The Connoisseur.
I like this better than any Pollock.
It's really good, right?
Yeah, I'm not like. I like art. I'm. People would probably call me a bit of a Philistine because I don't really like abstract art very much.
Yeah. I just think this is so cool.
But I think this is awesome.
Yeah, and in a way,
this is actually making Pollock good again to me.
Yeah,
I love this.
I think it's so cool that first it's like that Norman Rockwell, because I think he liked Pollock. He appreciated what he did.
Did he really?
He liked him enough to be like, how do you do this?
Yeah.
And then but insert his own sensibility
of like. How do you leave the pen can dripping and go away and then come back? No, I'm joking. But
have you ever seen a Pollock in in person?
It
does nothing to you?
I don't. I think once art left, like what do you call it? Representation.
Yeah.
Like actual representation. It can be a weird representation of something, but once there's no representation of something, I just don't know how to.
Yeah.
I don't know how to. To me, it's like a song without lyrics. I don't know how to. I need something intellectual.
Interesting.
To but I do think that's really cool.
Yeah, I love this. In a way, I think there's a weird way in which this painting reminds me of you. Because I think your sensibility comedically is very like classic.
Yes.
And
I'm a traditionalist.
Very traditional, but I think you have a great understanding of modern life, modern digital algorithms. Like you put your stuff online constantly. You're like,
so you see me as someone who's you're figured out a way to like.
I think you're like
live in this horrible Pollock era.
Yes, because I see you like could have been a vaudeville comic. You have that sense of not every
way to say someone's really Jewy,
but you are, and that's a part of your comedy.
Yeah, for sure.
But also it's like your jokes are super like they're traditional but surprising. But I think you have an ability to you're flexible and you can contextualize what's going on right now through that old school sensibility.
Yeah, I think the people who are the most successful are the ones who like immediately embrace change.
Yeah.
I don't. I fight it for a little bit, then give in. Typically, by the time I accept it, the thing has already whatever the fat is has burst. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I'll be doing a crowd work video in like a year from now when no one's doing it anymore. But I try to stay the social media shit.
But even just with like the things you talk about on stage, I guess. With contemporary political disagreements.
Yeah. I'll take it. Yeah, I love this painting.
This is The Connoisseur by Norman Rockwell. Let's talk about When You Are Old by W.B. Yeats. Okay, so we got some options here. I can read it, you can read it, or we can listen to an AI voiceover lady read it.
Let's do the AI voice.
Okay, AI voiceover lady.
Oh, yeah.
This is When You Are Old by William Butler Yeats. Raanan said this was his favorite poem.
Fuck.
All right, we'll just obviously.
Just saying that moment just like perfectly.
Yeah, I know.
Encapsulates me. I'm like trying to be really into poetry. Poetry and literature, but also I'm like neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And like
Raanan got so excited he spilled water all over himself before we listen. All right, no worries. Let's so let's listen to this poem. We're going to listen to AI voiceover lady read it.
When you are old and gray and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace and loved your beauty with love false or true? But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled and paced upon the mountains overhead and hid his face amid a crowd of stars.
Oh, that was awful. I shouldn't have said that.
I know. It always makes me laugh.
It like has none of the emotion.
I know. It kills me though. Because if it was because there's a voiceover one that like sounds like Michael Caine or something. It's like that would be like more appropriate. But I think I like the uncanny horror of like a like.
Let me read it.
Yeah, please go ahead.
When you are old and gray and full of sleep, nodding by the fire, take down this book, and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace and loved your beauty with love false or true? But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled and paced upon the mountains overhead and hid his face amid a crowd of stars. I mean,
that was nice.
It's okay. It's better than.
No, I think I got him in. I liked the voiceover lady better.
Yeah, I love this poem.
Yeah, what do you like about this poem?
Well, this is a poem. He had unrequited love for, God, what's her name? Madame Guan. My memory is so bad. This woman who he's in love with who was like a real political revolutionary who he wanted to marry, and she said, "No, I'll make you a better poet if you're heartbroken."
Really?
Yeah. And so he wrote.
But she was not in love with him.
No, I think they had a connection, but I think she was like, no, it'd be better if you don't want to. If I reciprocate this back, you won't be such a great poet.
Yeah.
And she was just like a wild person, like a revolutionary, and this is a poem he wrote about her later on in life, saying, "You're gonna regret that you're not with me."
I know, dude. I didn't want to be crass, but it's like this poem has like an incel vibe for sure.
Well, yes, but yes.
No, I like. Yeah, I'm not saying that means it's bad. It's just it is a piece of expression coming from an embittered guy about a woman who he's saying, like, you don't realize how much I love you and nobody else appreciates you
but now
like
you're
I do.
old.
And now you're fucking old.
But what I love
Remember me.
Yeah, what I love about it is the rhyme pattern is...
The rhyme pattern's great. No, I love that.
It's A-B-B-A.
Yes, yeah.
And what that does is that the first rhyme rhymes with the fourth line.
Yeah.
And that makes that rhyme feel very faded because your memory of your memory of sleep, it takes a while to get to deep.
Yeah.
So by the time deep comes, it feels like a very faded rhyme.
It's true,
which, to me, perfectly encapsulates faded youth, faded life kind of flowing like
oh, so
you.
you're saying F-A-D-E-D. I thought you were saying faded like
oh,
fate.
No.
It was like fate meant this rhyme to happen.
No. I'm saying like the fact that the A rhyme is so far away from is by having the sleep and deep be so far away and grace and face and bars and stars.
No, I understand what you're saying. It's like
sense,
the rhymes are far away. I thought you were saying that because they're so far away, it kind of makes the second rhyme seem like this long turnaround that like was sort of written.
Oh, well, maybe that too. But I guess for me, it just feels you just feel the ghost of a rhyme.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then it feels like the ghost of a life. It just feels like life you're looking back on a long life. I just think it's a complete marriage of content and form. And by the end of it, you just feel that feeling you get when you're just thinking about how much time has passed and missed opportunities or whatever. And this whole poem's like a sigh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
And the way loved in the second verse, the way it repeats itself. And I mean, to me, I don't even know how to explain this, but when he says, how many loved your moments of glad grace and loved your beauty, was love false or true? The line, but one man loved the pilgrim soul in you, that
is nice.
It's just beautiful.
I love that. Yeah. And knowing that she was this political revolutionary, it gives it an extra...
He liked that wild side of her.
Right.
It's just like the way that... I mean, I love this poem in high school, so I was definitely thinking about a girl. But like... the way who is now fucking old,
I know,
but like
exactly,
bitch. But the way I don't know the way
you should write a version of this poem about her watching your Rogan appearance.
when you are old and gray and put on Spotify. You'll hear me on Joe Rogan.
And read 1,500 anti-Semitic comments.
You'll hear me on Joe Rogan and let out a sigh. But yeah, I mean, the way that flows, but one man loved the pilgrim soul in you.
It's really nice.
It's just incredible.
Okay, and then the last like 2.5 lines I like, but I get a little bit lost in the imagery of it. How love fled and paced upon the mountains overhead and hid his face amid a crowd of stars. So it's like...
Yeah, it's a weird...
He can just goes off into at the peak of the mountain and kind of becomes a hermit. I guess not him himself, but like
I mean, it's a weird like Yeatsian kind of like.
It becomes a little abstract for me at the end.
He does these kind of abstract words become anthropomorphic, you know.
Yeah.
And so bending down beside the glowing barbs, murmur a little sadly how love fled. I mean, which is just such a sad line.
Yeah.
And then love is suddenly now this spirit pacing upon the mountain overhead and hiding his face amid a crowd of stars. So it's like the love like flew away and just kind of became part of the universe. And no longer this, it just disappeared amongst a crowd. You know what I mean? I don't know. For me, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's different, but for me, it's just this idea of this, like, this real love we could have had, and now it's just flown away and is just part of the...
But they could never have had it because she didn't like him.
It's true. Yeah. That's the funny part about the poem. I think it's his regret he's feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's like, dude, I had sex with so many... you became a great poet.
She's
it's like
it's a good poem. I told you it was right to reject you. But yeah, I mean, I definitely was my high school or college.
That's funny, dude. She's reading a book of his poetry and thinking like, oh, that's nice, W. William. And then she's also thinking about like all the guys she fucked. And
she's like, reading it out loud to the guys she's dating. But I mean, it's just so the faded rhyme just makes it. I've always loved ABBA.
It's beautiful. I love it. Yeah. Is there another poem that has that?
I believe Dante. Isn't Dante's Inferno that style? I think
maybe. I don't know.
I forget what it's called, but I believe Dante's Inferno is also that style. I don't know much about poetry, so I'm like,
rhyme schemes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I've read a poem, so I know more than most people.
Yeah, and also you can talk Terza.
Terza Rima. Yeah, it's part of Dante, I believe.
Nice. Oh, it's somewhat different. This is like ABA, BCB, CDC.
Okay, so that's different. Yeah. AB. Okay, that's Terza Rhyme, which is different. Yeah. That is also a great rhyme scheme.
Yeah. Any rhyme scheme is great. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I don't know what else is ABBA, but it's a haunting. It's perfect for
beautiful.
Faded love and aging. Being old and regretful.
Well, Raanan, our time together has faded because you got to go.
I know, man. Well, it's so great.
But thank you for being on. I appreciate it.
It was awesome.
Do you want to say anything about your career to my
Pedro's mom? Check out my special Brave on YouTube.
Yeah, she'd be like, it's too loud.
But yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, thank you, Raanan. I appreciate it.
Of course.